Chapter 47, Shredded Fantasy. Tanaka Miara, age 38, widow and mother of two, lay tossing and turning in her hospital bed in a private suite off in a secluded and quiet wing of the Kinoshi Hospital. It was in the middle of the night, and her fever was running high again, and a raspy cough came from her lungs. For the past several days, she'd been unable to write or read, and her 14-year-old daughter didn't visit anymore. Most of the time, she was either delirious or asleep, so it didn't matter, especially since she had spent the past 5 or 6 years in such a manner. She fell into another fit of coughing, too weak to press the button to call a night shift nurse to her assistance. Then she felt something stir by the curtains, and wind swept in from the opened window. She peered through the darkness unsuccessfully, since it was a moonless night, and her own vision was blurred because of her teary eyes. Yet, there definitely was someone standing by the windowside. "McKay? Is that you, McKay?" Miara finally whispered. There was no answer, and the only sound was that of her harsh breathing. "I know it's you. Tanaka McKay. Answer me," she commanded. Again, there was no answer, and this time the figure slipped out of the window and disappeared completely. The only sign of anyone having entered was the flapping of the curtains in the night breeze. Miara sank back down in her bed, sweat-soaked, and wondering how delirious she really was. Eventually, she fell into a deep, dreamless sleep. It was hard for Sakura to go to school Monday morning, for she found that her bruises from yesterday had swollen more overnight, and every movement made her wince in pain. Thank goodness Eran and Erika were both missing from school that day, for she didn't have to put on a show of avoiding Eran the entire day. She knew she really couldn't face him again, and she didn't want anyone asking awkward questions. Even luckier, Syaoran seemed to be missing again also. "How strange," Sakura commented as the student sat in class and she peered back at the empty seat behind her. "Kaido-kun has a higher attendance rate than Syaoran these days." "All Maylin's influence," Kai said, grinning. Since it was the day before the musical festival and Tomeo still hadn't regained her singing voice, Iro, Sakura, and she gathered in the music room during lunch break, wondering what to do. Tomeo tried to sing, yet it was in vain. "Don't overwork yourself," Iro said. "The more you pressure yourself, the less likely it is that your singing voice will return." "Iro-kun is right," Sakura said. "Even if you don't regain it, I can let the voice card sing in your stead, so don't worry about it." Shaking her head, Tomeo said, "No, I can't do that. It'll be dishonest. I think I'll just forfeit the contest. It's not too late. I can't compete like this." "No, you worked so hard for this," Sakura said tearfully. "I can't just let you give up like this." "Tomeo-san, do you want to compete?" Iro asked gravely. "Yes," Tomeo replied, sighing. "Oh, I do." "Then I'll try my best to support you, and in return, please try your best too, and together we will win first place," Iro said. "I already know that you're not the type of person to give up so easily, so whatever happens, let's participate in the contest tomorrow. That's a promise, okay?" Tomeo smiled gratefully and nodded. "Yippee! I ate lunch with Toya-kun!" Nakaru exclaimed, jumping up and down as she entered the Reed estate after school ended. She definitely appreciated the lax schedule of university. "Soupy-chan, where are you?" Shut up, Ruby Moon, Soupy-chan grumbled, flipping the page of a thick Chinese novel. It's so quiet and peaceful in the house when you aren't around. Where's Miho-chan? Is she feeling any better? Nakaru demanded. Didn't you hear Iro tell us to keep an eye on her? I don't know. She must be in her room, Soupy-chan replied, rolling over on the navy blue sofa, camouflaging perfectly in with it because he was a similar color. Miho-chan! What do you want for dinner? Nakaru called, stomping up to the second floor to Miho's room. There came a loud shriek. Soupy-chan rolled off the sofa, startled. What's the matter? Miho-chan's gone! Nakaru exclaimed. Floating up to the second floor, Soupy-chan muttered, Big deal. She must have gone out. But look, here's a note! Nakaru pointed out, prancing up and down the hallway, waving the note in the air so that Soupy-chan had a difficult time deciphering it. It's Miho's handwriting, Soupy-chan stated as he grabbed the note away from Nakaru and sat down on the wooden banister to read it. Dear Iro, I'm leaving with Oni-chan. I won't be coming back. Thank you for all you've done to me and send my regards to Kaho-san. I finally have all I have desired, and I don't want to burden you anymore. Love, Miho.
You mean you're still not able to sing? Syaoran asked in disbelief to Tomeu later on that day. It turned out that he had been at school after all and had just missed his morning classes, doing some errand for the music teacher. Nudging Syaoran to make him shut up, Sakura reassured, I'm sure it will come back by tomorrow.
Iro! A black streak flew in through the music room window.
Soupy-chan, Iro asked. What's the matter?
Miho ran away, Soupy-chan replied in a bored voice, once again regaining his composure.
Miho-chan did what? Sakura exclaimed, rising to her feet, then grimacing, having sat up too abruptly. What's the matter? Syaoran asked.
Oh, stomach cramps, Sakura replied unconvincingly. To avoid further questioning, she read Miho's departure note, then stated, Miho-chan's in danger. She went to that dark force.
She couldn't have gone far, Syaoran replied. We'll be able to find her no time.
That's right, let's go, Sakura exclaimed, immediately dialing Kiro-chan.
School didn't end yet, Syaoran trailed off.
Doesn't matter, we can skip journalism meeting today, Sakura stated, already heading out. Ooh, another dark force, Tomeu asked excitedly. Can you change into the new outfit that I made?
This isn't exactly the time to be thinking about costumes, is it? Syaoran said dryly. There's a missing person here.
I know! How exciting! Tomeu exclaimed, clasping her hands to her heart. Oh, like a thriller. Everyone sweat dropped, yet Tomeu's brightness cheered them all up greatly, giving a sense of regularity to the difficult situation.
No, you three stay in school, Iro said firmly. It will seem too suspicious if all of us disappeared. I'll call Ruby Moon and Yue to search for Miho with me. I'll send you notice when I have her tracked.
But, Sakura gaped.
Iro had already vanished.
Despite the fact that Sakura and the others felt finding Miho was urgent and had counted the minutes till journalism club ended at 5, Tomeu wouldn't let them off until her bodyguards with the costume truck arrived, stating, Ooh, I've made dozens of new costumes for Sakura-chan to wear. You know, there haven't been any dark forces these days, so they've been sitting around gathering dust. Oh, Sakura-chan, you'll wear them, right? Hoi, of course, Tomeu-chan, Sakura replied, praying that Tomeu's choice of costume covered her bruised body completely. You too, Syaoran-kun, Tomeu continued as Syaoran backed off, intimidated.
Right, he stammered. Very exotic? Syaoran commented when Sakura stepped out of Tameo's costume van in a gypsy-inspired outfit. A white, frilly, off-the-shoulder peasant blouse with a black bodice and a deep crimson swishy skirt which came down ankle length. Large golden hoop earrings dangled from her ears, and a matching crimson kerchief was tied around her curled hair. Sakura was relieved to find that it had turned too dark for the others to notice the redness on her shoulders and arms. "Your turn next!" Tameo exclaimed. "You don't know how much fun I had coordinating your outfit too, Syaoran-kun." "Really, we don't have time for this. Miho is at risk, you know," Syaoran protested as Tameo guided him inside the costume van.
Don't worry. Ruby Moon, Spindle-san, Yue, and Earl are all on her track right now," Kiro-chan reassured. "They'll find her, certainly. Yue will contact us when they find her." When Syaoran emerged from the van, Kiro-chan and Sakura smothered giggles. Syaoran's outfit was pirate-inspired, a coarse white shirt unlaced in the front to reveal his well-toned chest, a crimson sash tied around his waist, and loose navy blue black trousers tucked into hardy leather boots set off his tall, lean frame, capturing the wild, reckless spirit of a vagabond. He too had a kerchief, his navy blue, tied around his head.
"Good to see there's no eye patch," Syaoran grumbled, fiddling with the kerchief tied around his head by Tameo. Better wear what she told him than to have her stare up at him with those large, sorrowful eyes.
"Oh, I do, but I thought it would hinder your vision when you fight the dark force, so..."
Tameo let out one of her funny little sighs, staring at the black eye patch in her hand.
"But I have this instead!"
She held up a tiny gold hoop earring. "Oh, no, you don't!" Syaoran exclaimed. "If you want someone with pierced ears, go to Kai or something. Pirates are just thieves of the sea, anyway."
"Actually, the outfit was originally geared for Kai-kun, but he refused to wear it,"
Tameo said. She disappeared into the van and brought out a black Zorro-inspired outfit, complete with a black mask, lawn cape, and a jaunty black hat.
"But see, I made this for him. It's completely in black, so I'm sure he'll wear it now. Now, if only I can find him."
Wonderful," Syaoran said, edging away from Tameo, who was aiming to put the earring on his left ear.
"Don't worry, this is only a clip-on, but it doesn't hurt that much to have your ears pierced if you'll ever consider it,"
Tameo said, clipping on the hoop on his ear with satisfaction. "I'm not doing anything that Aaron considers fashionable," Syaoran grumbled.
"Well, we're ready then," Kiro-chan exclaimed with a miniature pirate hat and black eye patch. He eyed Sakura and Syaoran. A gypsy girl and a buccaneer of the sea. Odd, yet striking." "I know! Don't they look so cute together?"
Tameo exclaimed, holding up her camcorder and recording with bliss.
"Oh, it's as if they're out of a storybook."
It's already dusk. I wonder if Earl and the others found Miho yet," Sakura commented, twiddling with one of her curls, trying not to stare at Syaoran, who did look like a dashing hero out of a fantasy book. "He makes it look good with whatever he wears. He always looks comfortable. He always looked comfortable in his Romeo costumes. Not out of place like some others."
"Where can Miho-chan be? That it's taking Earl so long to track her?" Tameo asked. "Pretty impressed that Earl's taken it in his hands to do something for a change," Kiro-chan commented. "Until now, he's always sat back and watched."
"I say, let's go find her ourselves," Sakura stated. Where places she might go to?" Syaoran looked up. I have an idea. I heard from Mei Lin last time that she and Kai were visiting Miho's old school, Itoko Elementary, and on their way they passed by that neighborhood that Miho used to live in. Supposedly there's a large empty space where her house used to stand before it burned down. And apparently they haven't rebuilt anything over that land yet.
You think she might be there? Sakura asked hopefully.
Well, won't hurt to try. I can call Melanie at home and ask her to give us directions.
Syaoran held out his cell phone. Then he remembered that he had removed its battery to avoid calls from home.
Oh, never mind. Can I borrow yours? Miho-chan, are you sure about this?
Tanaka Mackay asked as Miho trailed behind him, lugging a bulging suitcase. I'm going with Oni-chan from now on, Miho said determinedly. I'm going back, and this time you can't make me. Turning back to wait for Miho to catch up to him, Mackay smiled, his gray-blue eyes twinkling.
But then, why did you say you wanted to visit our old home again?
I just wanted to see it one more time, Miho stated. She realized that she was walking through achingly familiar streets now. There was the playground she used to ride slides in. There was her 4th grade best friend's house. There was the ice cream shop that she used to visit daily. Now there was the path leading to the slightly isolated Tanaka residence. Her friends had always admired her house when she was younger. It was the most beautiful residence in the neighborhood, standing a little more distant from the cluster of the other homes. Mackay followed her as she ran through the overgrown bushes to where the house used to stand. It's the first time I've come back here since our house burned down, Miho said, walking wistfully through the large patch of land, unkempt with weeds and shrubbery. It felt oddly empty. In the center of the area where the large Victorian-style Tanaka residence used to stand was bare, the ground still scorched from the great fire. Otherwise, there was no sign of the disastrous fire that occurred 5 years ago. The ruins of her house no longer remained, and all the burnt household goods had long since been cleared. Even the greenery, which had wilted, had grown back, fertilized by the ashes.
You know, this land has been sold, Iro said, emerging from between the shadows of 2 trees. To another person.
Looking up startled, Miho demanded, What are you doing here?
I thought you might be here, Iro replied mildly, despite Miho's hostility. As you know, the bank took over this territory after the house burned down. So I've requested about this land to the landowners to see if it was still open for sale, and it seems as if someone's purchased it from the bank already. I'm sorry, Miho. I know you dreamed to have our house rebuilt so that we could live here again, Mackay said. Miho, come here, Iro said, his midnight blue eyes cold behind his black-rimmed glasses as he gazed upon Mackay. Miho hid behind Mackay's back, still not over the shock that her house, her land, was taken from her, simply snatched away like that. She had always taken it for granted that this was her home and that someday she and her mother and brother could live in it again, even if her father was no longer there. I'm not going with you, Iro. I already told you that. I'm staying with Oni-chan. Get away from him, Iro commanded, the authority of his voice echoing through the empty land. Why should I get away from my own brother? Miho asked indignantly. Do as I say. You know very well he is not your real brother. He is dangerous to you, Iro said stately. Shielding Miho away from Iro with his arm, Mackay asked, smiling a little too amusedly. Why should I be dangerous? I will never dream of hurting my precious little sister. That's right, Miho stated. Let's go, Ni-chan, away from here. No, Miho-chan, Sakura called out, leaping from a gleaming black car. Kai had offered to drive them over there. She had forgotten all about her aching body.
Irokan's right. That's not your brother. He's only an illusion, a replica. Mei Lin, sitting in the front seat next to him, looked smug at remembering the directions to the Tanaka residence correctly, and even more smug because Syaoran had asked for her help for the first time. They had been right. Miho, Mackay, and Iro were all there. See, I told you it's a right turn and not a left turn, Mei Lin told Kai. I remembered from last time when we ate at that expensive Japanese restaurant. We passed by this neighborhood, and I pointed out that there was a large vacant space amidst all the other residences. Her heart lurched when she recalled the strange occurrence by the graveyard, which was also that very day. Never had she felt sorrier for a person, though she not know why.
Okay, Kai said, hands raised up. You are right, and I'm wrong.
I wonder how in the world you got to be a world-class thief with such a poor memory, Mei Lin continued to chide. Oh, wait, unless you're pretending to not know the place just to prove the point that you're really not Miho's older brother.
We've already been through that before. Why are you bringing it up again? Kai demanded. How many times do I have to tell you and get it through your obstinate head that...
Are they worse than the brat in Sakura-chan or what? Kiro-chan muttered as Syaoran, Tomeo, and Kiro-chan, who had also squeezed into the back seat of Kai's car, quietly streamed out after Sakura, leaving Kai and Mei Lin to squabble in the car. They got out in time to hear Mackay defend himself by asking,
If I am, as you say, only a replica, can you explain to me why is it that you can't sense any dark aura from me? You've left me alone for almost a month.
That's because you are the result of two dark forces. One which gave you your form as the exact replica of Tanaka Mackay, age 16, and the other which gave you a soul, which gave you the knowledge, the personality, and the ambience of Miho's older brother. It was created from Miho's own personal fantasy of what her brother would be like if he were to return, Sakura stated before Iro could speak. Am I right, Iro-kun?
I'm impressed, Iro said, bemused. Cloud Reed did choose the right successor.
What are you talking about? Miho demanded, gray eyes flashing as darkness crept over the sky. Are you telling me that everything is just the result of my imagination? As if I won't be able to distinguish my own brother from my fantasy. I told you this before, to both of you. Why do you keep bringing it up?
Miho, don't heed to what they're saying, Mackay said gently, leaning over and stroking Miho's hair. As he leaned over, a silver locket hanging from a thick chain tumbled out from under his shirt. I am your brother, and as long as you know it, that's the only thing that matters.
I believe you. I believe Ni-chan. Take me away, Miho whispered tearfully. I can't stand this anymore. Take me away!
As you wish, Miho, Mackay said, placing a hand over Miho's forehead. Rays of rainbow light streamed out and rippled over Miho's body, and suddenly Miho's body dissolved into thin air.
Miho-chan! Sakura exclaimed. What have you done to her?
Don't worry. She's safe, Mackay said, smiling sadly. I told you before I wouldn't hurt my own sister. Then where have you transported her to? Syaoran demanded. She's gone to a place where she can really be happy and carefree, Mackay replied. The place where all of her fantasies will come true.
Oh no! Sakura exclaimed. That means she's fallen right into the fantasy's trap. The ultimate pitfall.
What does that mean? Syaoran asked. It means that she's been transported into the fantasy kingdom, which exists inside the fantasy. It's where all dreams come true and can be shaped into a victim's desires. Iro replied.
How do you know that?
Sakura asked, dumbfounded, holding up her 5-4 scroll and reading what it had to say about the fantasy.
That scroll was passed down to your parents from Cloud Reed, remember?
Iro said, smiling. Oh, of course, Sakura said. Then she glared at McKay. I thought you said you wouldn't harm Miho.
I haven't, have I? McKay replied lazily. She's happy now, and that's more than any of you could do for her.
I don't think bliss gained by turning a blind eye to reality can be called happiness, Sakura retorted. Well, show your true form then. I can't fight you when you take the shape of my friend's older brother. Whipping out her key, she commanded, Key that hides the power of the stars, show your true self to me. I, Sakura, command you under contract. Release!
Separate the two forces first, Iro advised. If you seal away the fantasy before we retrieve Miho first, she'll be trapped inside it forever.
What? Sakura exclaimed as she was about to call out the windy. Simultaneously, Syaoran had sent out a swirl of thunder from his sword, the new technique that he had been practicing, but McKay dodged easily. However, the tree standing behind him was not so fortunate and received the direct blast of Syaoran's sword, splintering down the center. All of them gaped at this. Tomeo, who was recording every moment with her camcorder, pondered what background music she should insert in that particular scene later on.
Sudden boost in power, Syaoran-kun,
Iro asked, hiding his annoyance since he had happened to be standing very near to a splintered tree.
Dangerous boy, McKay stated, shaking his head. I'm rather not of a fighting force, but don't bother with any of those fancy attacks on me. I won't even fight back. I'll just dodge all of them and escape. He's right, Iro said when Syaoran decided not to heed the fantasy's words and held up his sword again. This will be a mental battle, not a battle of physical strength.
Sighing, Syaoran sheathed his sword again into the leather sheath belted around his waist, a part of his pirate getup. He fingered its smooth, well-worn hilt, glad that it was his father's sword and not the Lee clan sword. No longer was he going to wear his traditional Chinese battle outfit of the Chosen One. All his ties with the Lee clan were severed. Perhaps the expression on his face was exceptionally fierce that night, for Tomeo was taping him instead of Sakura for a change. What am I supposed to do? Sakura asked herself, glancing at Iro, who looked calm in spite of the perilous situation. Should I be relieved that he's here? Or is this my job? After all, this is my battle against the Dark Ones, not Iro's. Though it is reassuring to have him here.
Don't be silly, Syaoran said, stepping up beside her. It's my battle, too. It's our battle against the Dark Ones.
Sakura stared up at Syaoran gratefully. By now, she was used to the fact that Syaoran often could hear her thoughts. Once more, she felt relieved that he wasn't returning to Hong Kong, her greatest dread set aside.
So tell us, Iro, how do we separate the two forces to get the fantasy on its own, since you are oh so smart and probably figured everything out? Syaoran asked, unable to keep the sarcasm from his words, maybe annoyed because Sakura's mind was so full of Iro at the moment. Why does she have so much faith in this coward, whose hobby it is to watch others' misfortune and struggle? The second dark force is the transform, Iro replied. It can take the form of whatever it chooses, withstanding that it has to transform something to take another image, not create an image out of scratch.
So the transformed the fantasy into Miho's older brother? Sakura asked.
No, the fantasy does not have a form, so it cannot be transformed, Iro said. It had to transform another item, preferably an item which is related to Tanaka McKay, so that the fantasy could feed off the memory of that item and become a more convincing human. If you knew all of this, why didn't you do something about it before things got serious? Syaoran demanded. Truthfully, I have figured out these fine details myself only recently, Iro replied. However, even knowing them, there was nothing I could do about it. The only thing to do was to wait until Tanaka Mackay decided to show his real face, or until her real brother showed up. Since the former happened first, I am now trying my best to assist the card mistress to seal the fantasy and the transform and bring Miho back to safety. Well, since you seem to have everything cracked, do you know how to seal my visage? Mackay asked, fiddling with the silver locket around his neck.
Ooh, I bet's written in here, Sakura said, scanning the text of the 5/4 scroll. The transform,
If the sealer can correctly name the object, the original object that was transformed, the transform will have to forego its current shape and return to its original form,
Iro said, saving Sakura the trouble.
What? How are we supposed to know what object was used to transform into that bastard? Syaoran demanded. For all we know, he could actually be a piece of log.
Didn't you listen to Iro-kun? Sakura asked, staring at Mackay's handsome face with the cloudless gray eyes. Eyes that lacked soul. It probably had to be an object which had association with the original Tanaka Mackay.
Fine. It can be a piece of sock that belonged to him or something, Syaoran exclaimed.
An idea occurred to Sakura. Hey, Syaoran, she said quietly, can you get that locket from his neck?
Sure, no problem. What do you want with it? Syaoran asked, raising an eyebrow. Wait, have I seen that locket before?
You'll see, Sakura replied mysteriously. Without hesitation, Syaoran leaped forward and slashed down his sword with the speed of lightning. Sakura, expecting bloodshed, clenched her eyes shut. When she opened her eyes again, she found that Syaoran had merely sliced through the silver chain that the locket had hung from, and he now held the oval locket with the ruby in the center in his hands. The dark force Mackay was clearly startled, for he had doubled back, pupils dilated, as everyone awed at the deadly precision of Syaoran's sword skills.
Here you go,
Syaoran said, tossing Sakura, who was still dazed, the locket. With trembling hands, Sakura opened the locket clutch, greeted with her reflection in the tiny oval mirror attached to the left side. A triumphant smile came over her face. The right side was empty. I know what object was used to be transformed into Tanaka Mackay. What is it, Sakura-chan? Tomeo asked. How'd you figure it out? It's the photo of Miho and her brother that was inserted inside the right side of this locket. Isn't it? Sakura asserted, staring at the replica of Mackay straight in the eye.
I'm surprised that you figured it out oh so easily.
The Mackay drawled, sighing. His form rippled, then dissolved, and a tiny photo the size of Sakura's thumb floated down to the ground. Hesitantly, Sakura brushed the dust off it and stared at the miniature portrait of the two siblings. Mackay, who seemed 12 or so, and Miho, who seemed around 9, stared out at the picture with genuinely bright smiles. Carefully, she inserted the photo back into the frame inside the locket and held her staff up. An amorphous, jelly-like creature without a clear color materialized in front of her. Spirit of the dark forces, I, Sakura, command you, return to new shape of contract. Swirling her staff around her fingers once, Sakura struck down her staff. Sakura, card! Staring at the new card that had transformed, Sakura smiled grimly and stated as she tucked it into her pocket, one down, one more to go.
Where did the fantasy go? Syaoran asked. Once it lost its form, it seemed to have disappeared.
I'm still around, a silvery whisper said, different from the charming light tenor voice of McKay. The fantasy was another force with a voice, like the riddle, the phantom, and the mirror. The card mistress is as clever as the Dark One said. As to be expected, since she is Cloudreed's chosen one, Errol said proudly. Now isn't the time to be gloating over choosing your successor well, Syaoran said, scowling because Sakura was blushing happily. Did I forget to mention that the longer one is drawn into the fantasy land, the harder it is to return? The fantasy asked. What do you want us to do then? Syaoran demanded, looking around to see where the aura of the dark force was concentrated. Oh, I don't know, the fantasy said, laughing high-pitched. I know. Should I let you guys into the realm of fantasy? You guys can search her for yourself and bring her back. Are you serious? You'll let us do that? Sakura asked hopefully. Sure, the fantasy replied. Immediately, a long, oval, shimmering, rainbow-colored entrance formed, the most definite form the fantasy could take. Here's the entrance to Miho's fantasy kingdom. Feel free to find her inside. Slanting his eyes, Syaoran asked suspiciously, Why are you just letting us enter like this? There must be some catch to it. You're trying to trap us in there forever, aren't you? The Miho inside will be convinced that everything around her is reality. But once she snaps out of her illusion, you will all be able to return, the fantasy replied. What are you waiting for? Sakura asked, already with one foot inside. Any time limit? Syaoran questioned, still not appeased. No time limit. You can stay in there as long as you like. While you're in there, time in the non-magical world will be temporarily frozen, the fantasy replied. Ha! Stay in there as long as you like. You said the longer we stay in there, the harder it is to come back, Syaoran stated. I did, didn't I? The fantasy let out another tingling laughter. So off you go now. Your girlfriend already went in. What? Syaoran exclaimed, discovering that Sakura had already disappeared into the brilliant, many-colored entrance. He dashed in after her. Syaoran was greeted by the strong rays of afternoon sun. Blinking, he gazed around at the vibrant and unfamiliar land. Oh, where in the world am I? Surrounding him were the verdant trees and flowers of every color of the rainbow. He could hear the merrily bubbling trickle of the river, and in the distance, through the mist, he could see a glimmering white palace, its towers reaching to the heights of the massive white clouds amidst the vivid cerulean blue sky. Off to the opposite end of the gleaming palace was a gloomy, gray tower, its height lost in hazy fog, set aside from the rest of the splendor. Just the air of this unknown place refreshed him, and all his worries from back home flushed out of his mind. Seems like this is Miho's fantasy world, Sakura said, stepping up beside him. She too had gotten over the initial shock of the dazzling beauty of the place. Fairy tale-like, isn't it? While Sakura had seemed strangely out of place dressed in her fantasy attire with her swishy scarlet skirt back at the remains of the Tanaka residence, here she blended right into the mystical setting, like a gypsy queen or an exotic little princess of stories long lost to childhood. Smiling at Sakura fondly, Syaoran said, Well, seems like it's the two of us again, Sakura. Blushing the color of the kerchief around her head, Sakura said, I guess so. Why is my silly heart pounding against my chest again? We're here on a mission, but I feel so happy to be in here in this glorious place, standing by Syaoran. Came a voice from behind them. Sorry to disappoint you, but I'm here too. Hirokun! Sakura exclaimed, clearly dismayed. Ha! Don't forget me too, Kira-chan added, popping up from behind Iro's back.
Oh, Syaoran heaved a sigh, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Great. Just wonderful.
Come on, don't look so disappointed, Kiro-chan said, pirate hat crooked on his head. The more the merrier.
Yeah, Syaoran grumbled. Damn it. It would have been perfect without these two.
Immediately, Kiro-chan and Iro disappeared. Oi? What just happened? Sakura asked, blinking as two of her comrades vanished into thin air.
Oops, better not make stupid wishes anymore. I didn't realize they'd actually disappear. Well, this is the fantasy land after all.
Clearing his throat, Syaoran said,
Now it really seems to be the two of us.
So it seems, Sakura said, blushing again. Now we just need to find Miho-chan.
Shall we take off then? Syaoran asked, smiling.
What are we doing here? Kiro-chan asked, staring around at the dense forest surrounding him and Iro. We weren't here a few seconds ago. Where's Sakura-chan and the brat?
We'll bump into them eventually,
Iro replied, gazing at the distant castle where he presumed Miho to reside in.
That should be our destination point.
Oh, I'm so hungry, Kiro-chan grumbled, cross at missing dinner time in the real world. Oh, I wish those trees spouted cupcakes and chocolates instead of leaves, and that river flowed pink lemonade. No sooner had he stated this, the sweet, rich aroma of baked goods and cocoa drifted with warm drift wind. Sniffing, Kiro-chan floated up to one of the trees before exclaiming, Oh, chocolate cupcakes! Oh, lemon cupcakes! Oh, sugar icy cupcakes! Take a look at this, Iro! Without wasting another second, Kiro-chan plucked the cupcakes off the branch, which now that he looked closer was dark chocolate resembling tree bark, stuffing them as quickly into his mouth as he could swallow. Bending over the river, which had turned a pretty cotton candy pink shade, Iro said,
Seems like our fantasies do come true here.
Jamming his mouth full of sweet cake and caramel toffees from another tree, Kiro-chan stated in garbled words, I think this place is wonderful. Brushing the crumbs from his face and licking the icing from his paws, Kiro-chan dunked his head into the lemonade river, gulping down heartily and exclaimed, delicious! It's just the right blend of sweet and pungent citric taste. Try some, Iro.
Tameo-san would love this place,
Iro said, staring at the palace one more time. Yeah, I wish Tameo-chan was here. She'd die of rapture, Kiro-chan stated. I mean, this kind of place is straight out of those wacky screenplays she'd come up with.
Do be careful what you wish for here,
Iro said. But it was too late. Someone dropped out of the sky and landed on top of him. Brushing back her long violet hair from her face, Tameo looked around, clearly dazed. Kiro-chan, she exclaimed in mild pleasure. Is this inside the fantasy? What am I doing here? Beneath you, was all Kiro-chan could manage before returning to nibbling on the strawberry-flavored flower he had picked off the ground. Sorry, Iro-kun, Tameo said, standing up in a flurry and straightening the skirt of her lavender dress with purple trims. Readjusting his glasses, Iro replied,
I'm fine.
Where's Sakura-chan and Syaoran-kun? Tameo asked. Then she shrieked in horror. Oh, my camcorder! Oh, I didn't bring it with me. Oh, though I didn't know I was going to come here in the first place.
Don't worry. I don't think electronics work in here anyway, Iro said.
Anyway, since it seems like all our wishes can come true in here, can't we just wish Miho-chan back? Kiro-chan asked, unable to fly properly now because his belly was bulging.
No, since this is Miho's kingdom, anything that contradicts her wishes will be nullified, Iro replied. That's why we can't just simply wish ourselves inside of her palace or anything, because it has a protective barrier, blocking any intruders.
I see, Tameo mused. But that
doesn't prevent us from calling up something to help us get into the palace where Miho-chan is quicker, does it? Like wishing for a winged beast or something. Immediately, a majestic, scaly green-winged creature which gently blew smoke from its nostrils appeared from behind the chocolate trees. As one would expect, to Meo-chan's imagination, Kiro-chan muttered. A great, huge dragon. Why couldn't you have called up a gentle unicorn or something? That thing sprouts fire from its breath. It's dangerous. Though I am a beast of fire myself, being the great Kirobera-sama. Kiro-chan dodged the jet of fire sprouted as the dragon yawned. Mounting the dragon first, Iro helped Tomeo get on behind him.
Well, should we take off now?
Well, it's a good thing I called up Tomeo-chan, who is capable of thinking such things. I wouldn't have been able to fly anyways because, I'm so full. Kiro-chan said, finally approaching the dragon and setting on its reptilian head. Ooh, how exciting! Tomeo exclaimed as the dragon soared into the sky. I've always wanted to ride a dragon before. Oh, don't you think this dragon would look nice with a big satin bow tied around its tail?
Maybe,
Iro said, smiling, tilting his head to catch a glimpse of Tomeo in rapture, holding onto his shirt with one hand to keep balance, and using the other hand to gather her long hair to keep it from being blown into her face.
Did you just see that? Syaoran asked, gazing up at the sky. I swear I saw a huge winged creature with a ridiculous polka dot ribbon streaming from its rear end.
You must be seeing things, Sakura laughed, bending over the pink river which they had been following since it seemed to lead towards the palace. She found conveniently found a large, surprising stiff leaf which resembled the shape of a bowl and used it as a cup to dip up the pink water and sipped it. Oh, lemonade!
Really?
Syaoran asked, taking the bowl-shaped leaf that Sakura had drank from and took another dip. He downed the lemonade in one shot.
Refreshing. Just hope it's not toxic or anything.
And look at this! The trees are growing cupcakes and toffees. That's where the sweet scent is coming from. Sakura tiptoed to reach for a chocolate cupcake, reaching for it and missing.
Here.
Syaoran plucked 2 ripe ones from the branches with ease due to his long limbs and handed one to Sakura, biting into the other. For a second, Sakura stared at Syaoran, wondering when he had grown so tall. Of course, he had been tall when he had first come back from Japan, more than a year ago now, but it seemed like he had done his share of growing more over these past few months. Back in elementary school days, he was only an inch or 2 taller than her. Soon, he really would be as tall as her brother.
Hurry and eat. We need strength on our journey, Syaoran said, already having devoured his first cupcake and now helping himself to a cinnamon roll. Still warm, as if it's from the oven. Here, eat.
He held out an apple strudel.
Bite.
Sakura hesitated a second before biting in, the crisp crust of the strudel and the juicy tartness of the apple melding into her mouth. Delicious.
Is it?
Syaoran asked, munching on the rest of the apple strudel, heedless that Sakura had already bitten into it.
I was making you taste it first to see if it was good.
Hey, give it back, Sakura exclaimed.
No. There was only one strudel growing on that tree, Syaoran replied, finishing off the last crumb.
Pig! Sakura squealed as Syaoran shoved another entire strudel into his wide-open mouth. Oomph! Her eyes watered. Syaoran laughed as Sakura's crumb-smeared cheeks bulging out on each side like a chipmunk's. Finally choking down the pastry, Sakura glared at Syaoran, who in return plucked a huge caramel daisy from the ground and thrust it into Sakura's mouth, making her teeth stick together so that she couldn't talk for the next hour, as she busily sucked away all the sweet. All the while, Syaoran was laughing at her heartily. Soon they resumed their journey, following the grassy bank of the Lemonade River, having half forgotten their initial quest to retrieve Miho.
Neither of them had the sense to call for some mystical creature to speed their way like Tameo's part did. Or maybe Syaoran did, since he figured out from earlier on that most wishes seemed to be granted automatically in the fantasy kingdom. Yet, he was enjoying the peaceful walk with Sakura too much. Even Sakura didn't bother calling up the fly or the unicorn, for she still absorbed in chewing the caramel, which didn't seem to disappear. However, by and by, they reached a fork in the river, which divided into two directions, one leading to the White Palace, and the other to the Dark Tower.
So, which way should we go? Syaoran asked, peering at the dismal lone tower protruding into the sky in an isolated, barren patch of land.
I don't know. Seems a little fishy, that place, Sakura replied, swallowing the last of the daisy caramel.
Halt! Who goes there?
A young man riding a white horse and in blue tunic with silver trimmings and a coat of arms with a mirror crossed by a bow stared down at them. His reddish gold hair tumbled into his gray-blue eyes in a dashing way. In his hand was a golden bow and a slinging of an arrow of a golden tip to it.
"McKay?" Sakura exclaimed, taken aback.
"That is my name," McKay said, rearing his horse back.
"Then you must know Miho," Sakura asked hopefully.
"Yes, she is my sister and the princess of the kingdom Fantasia," McKay replied. "And I am prince of this realm and the princess's knight protector. If you two are evildoers, you shall meet the justice of the court."
"All we want to do is just meet Princess Miho," Sakura said, glancing sideways at Syaoran helplessly.
"Well, at the moment she is busy preparing for battle with the Earl," McKay said. "She won't have time to meet with anyone." "The Earl?" Syaoran repeated. "Yeah, the Earl of Darkness," McKay replied impatiently. "Where are you two from? A foreign kingdom, maybe?"
Something like that," Sakura replied.
Syaoran whispered to Sakura,
"If you were creating your own fantasy world, would you create villains also and prepare for war with them?"
"Of course not. Everyone will live in harmony and all get along," Sakura whispered back. "But this is Miho's world, not ours. If she wants villains, she can have them."
"Either way, I'll have to get the two of you arrested for trespassing our kingdom," McKay stated. "And the princess can deal with you later."
"What? Arrested?" Sakura and Syaoran gazed at each other, horrified.
"Guards, bind these two," McKay called out, and immediately 4 armed guards, all with a royal coat of arms, came forth with ropes.
"Say, Sakura,"
Syaoran called as the guards struggled to bind him down, which is an impossible feat since Syaoran slipped through their arms like a snake.
"Do you want to make a run for it?"
"Great idea!" Sakura exclaimed, ducking under the arms of one guard as Syaoran tackled the other one. As the other 2 guards collided into each other, Sakura called out, "Towards the Dark Tower!" And the 2 of them sprinted with all their might, wading through the pink river, which only came knee-length, and upon reaching the opposite bank, followed the second river path, which led to the tower of the Earl of Darkness. Meanwhile, as Syaoran and Sakura were being chased by the royal guard, Tameo, Iro, and Kiro-chan had arrived by the gates of the palace, their dragon disappearing as soon as they arrived. "So, you figured Miho-chan would be in here?" Kiro-chan asked, marveling at the huge palace, which seemed to be built out of moonstone or some luminescent white marble. "Oh, how do we get in?" Tameo asked, looking around for a doorbell. Yet that was not needed, for immediately a guard stepped up to them, pointing a spear at Iro.
"What is your business here?"
the guard in blue and silver demanded. Carefully removing the point of the spear from his neck, Iro replied,
"We would like to see Miho."
"You mean the princess?" the guard asked.
"You 3 must be spies of the EOD. Intruders will not be tolerated. Guards, escort these 3 espionages to the dungeons."
"What kind of logic is that?" Kiro-chan exclaimed furiously. "Who in the world is this EOD anyway?"
"Silence, stuffed doll," the guard said. "EOD, short for Earl of Darkness, our kingdom's most evil and villainous magician."
"See? How can we be spies for something that we've never heard before in our lives?" Tomeo reasoned. Then she exclaimed, "Oh, that kind of sounds thrilling, too. Condemned to the dungeons because of being caught spying."
"Don't give them any wrong idea," Kiro-chan muttered.
"Lead them away,"
the head guard shouted, and a wooden main gate was lowered.
"I'm not going to the dungeon!"
Kiro-chan bit the guard's arm, who yelped. At that moment, a hushed silence came over the guards, who all bowed lowly. The herald announced, "Princess Miho!" The guard, flustered, said, "Your Highness, there were intruders, and we were about to take them to the dungeons."
"Miho,"
Errol said, staring at Miho in the eye. This was clearly Miho, but yet not Miho. Her eyes widened as if recognizing him, or at least finding him vaguely familiar. Errol was faintly relieved.
"Good. Well, not too late."
"Wow, what a beautiful dress," Sakura commented on Miho's attire, a deep sapphire blue dress with pale blue ribbon lacings and white foam lace which peeped from the squared neck, sleeves, and a lawn skirt. Her sleek gray eyes were somber and merry at the same time. What made Miho less recognizable was that her rich auburn hair was still long and curly, like she was an exact older version of the young Miho of the pictures. The one with the braided hair, setting off the royal attire, was a bejeweled tiara set on her brows. "Bring the strangers to the throne room," Miho commanded, turning back with a swish of her long train.
"As you wish, Your Highness,"
the guard replied, bowing again. The throne room was a grandeur of gold, the thrones being of solid gold embedded with sapphires and rubies and emeralds. 2 large thrones were side by side, and 2 smaller ones were on each side of the center ones. In the center sat the king and queen, Miho's mother and father. Unlike the Miara from the hospital, whose beauty and health had wasted away, the queen seated on the throne was still at the peak of her beauty. Her long, wavy auburn hair, so like her daughter's, braided and woven with rubies. The king also looked vaguely familiar, a dignified, quiet man with a beard and broad shoulders. Seated to his other side was Miho, while the remaining smaller throne next to the queen was clearly meant for Mackay, but was currently empty. The 4 thrones were on top of an elevated platform, behind which hung a large blue banner with the royal emblem of the mirror crossed by the bow stitched to it. Tomeo, Errol, and Kiro-chan were brought to the foot of the platform, accompanied by the 2 guards. At that moment, Prince Mackay, puffing from the unsuccessful chasing of the trespassers, entered the throne room. He smiled warmly at his father, mother, and little sister, and then took the last seat.
"Oni-chan,"
Miho greeted brightly. "You're back just in time."
"That's him!"
Kiro-chan exclaimed, pointing at Mackay with his paw. "State your names and occupation," Miho said. "Who's that snot think she's bossing around?" Kiro-chan muttered.
"My name is Errol, and I am a fortune teller,"
Errol said.
"My name is Tomeo, and I'm a designer,"
Tomeo said, eyeing the queen's velvet dress.
"And I'm Kiro-beras, and I am a guardian,"
Kiro-chan muttered. Miho said, "Boring. Guards, lead them away to the dungeon."
"What?"
Kiro-chan exclaimed. Errol realized that Miho was not pretending to not know them. She truly had partly forgotten about them all, being wrapped up in this fantasy world. He had to change his strategy. Glancing over to the throne room, he spotted a grand piano by the window side. A faint conversation replayed in his mind.
"Errol, play the piano for me."
No, mijo, I'm tired. Later.
You always say that. You never play for me. I'm not talking to you anymore, Earl. Miho had always loved music, probably inherited from her music-loving mother. Yet he never played for her as much as she would have liked because he wasn't too fond of performing.
Wait, Earl exclaimed. Actually, we also are court magicians. Musicians.
Musicians, Miho asked, raising an eyebrow. And your specialty is?
The piano, Earl replied calmly. And this lady is a singer.
He brought Tomeo forth, who seemed astounded. Is that true? Miho reflected over this. Well, play something for me then.
As you please, Princess Miho,
Earl said, bowing in style. Clowreed had not been part British aristocrat for no reason, and heading over to the piano. Tomeo followed him, whispering, Earl-kun, I can't sing. You know that.
You forget. We're inside the fantasy. Anything is possible here.
Earl replied. Placing a reassuring hand on Tomeo's shoulder, he said,
Sing your best. I think it's dawned upon us all that we might really end up in the dungeons if we can't impress her right now. You will do fine, Tomeo.
Taking a deep breath, Tomeo nodded. Her left shoulder tingled, the spot where Earl's hand had touched. The opening notes of her contest piece floated through the large, airy throne room, and the mystical tune more tangent than ever. All her fears of not being able to sing vanished as her voice carried the melody across the palace, mingling with the magical air of the place. She felt a swelling in her heart, different from ever before, as she poured her soul into her singing. Whether it was the enchantment of the place or whether it was Earl's accompaniment, which was more sensual than back in the music room, Tomeo did not know. But all she knew was that she was producing the highest quality of singing she had ever produced. The royal family clapped heartily as the song came to an end, and Miho dabbed the corner of her eyes with the lace handkerchief embroidered with the initials M.T. That was so beautiful. I changed my mind. You can stay here. Guards, you may leave and keep usual post. These people are my guests from now on. The three of them heaved a sigh of relief. Now that the immediate danger of being condemned to imprisonment was over, they were all filled with doubt of whether they could convince Miho that this palace was not truly her home and that she had to return to the bleak, miserable real world. Oh, I forgot. Did I tell you that we are in the middle of preparing for a war with the EOD? Miho asked. We're invading the evil magician's tower tomorrow. Right, Oni-chan?
Yes. All preparations are finally ready,
McKay replied. Eh? A war? Kiro-chan squeaked. One more unexpected trouble to deal with. After what seemed like hours of being chased by the royal guard, Sakura and Syaoran realized that they had thrown them off track and paused, panting.
Oh, whew, they are persistent,
Syaoran said, wiping the sweat off his brow with his sleeve. We've run far. I can't believe we're so near the tower, Sakura gasped as they came to the base of a bleak, steep, and jagged rock mountain, at the top of which the tower was located, the lair of the Earl of Darkness. It was only a speck when we first arrived here. Her curled hair had come loose during the long run, the kerchief probably having blown off. She saw that Syaoran had also ditched his bandana and golden hoop earring, as well as the red sash around his waist. Simplicity suited him too. Rumpled white shirt, sword slung around his waist, wind-tossed brown hair.
I think we were both wishing in our minds that very hard that we could get as far away from those guards as possible,
Syaoran pointed out. Well, what do we do now? Sakura asked. I still think Miho would be at the palace, but something about this place struck me. It's worth checking out, I think.
I think Earl and the stuffed animal probably reached the castle by now,
Syaoran said, peering at the direction of the palace. It was getting too dark to see anything but its dim outline.
And you remember McKay saying that there'll be a battle soon. I have a feeling that we're stuck here in this world until the battle is over.
It's getting dark, Sakura said. Do you think we could make it up the tower today?
Shaking his head, Syaoran replied,
It's too dangerous. Even if we fly up, there's no knowing what awaits us up there. I think the best thing to do is wait until morning at the base of the mountain. Now, if only there was a comfortable bed and hot dinner.
Look, there's a cottage over there. Want to try it?
Sakura ran to the lighted hut and opened the door.
It's empty.
True enough, it seemed as if the hut was especially prepared for the two, since there were 2 beds side by side in one corner of the room and a table with 2 chairs, laden with steaming porridge, roasted chicken, baked potatoes, meat pies, and pudding and fresh fruits for dessert, complete with utensils for 2 cups, 2 forks, 2 knives, 2 spoons. A pitcher full of water, they had been getting sick of pink lemonade, was placed at the center of the table, along with a pot of hot tea. It didn't surprise them that after filling themselves to their heart's content, the table cleared itself on its own. Kicking off his boots, Syaoran lay down on the crisp sheets of one of the beds. Never had lying down after an exhausting day felt so good. He found that he was now wearing loose cotton green and white plaid pajamas, matching with Sakura's pink and white ones, which were very Tomeo-like in design, being a sleeveless top with a narrow pink ribbon bow in the front and a matching bottom, which flared out at the ankles, bows attached to each side. Was there anything that this house didn't provide? The candlelight blew out automatically, and Sakura crawled into the bed opposite of his.
Hey, Syaoran, Sakura asked.
Yeah?
I feel guilty because we haven't found Miho yet, but I have to say, this place is kind of nice.
It is, Syaoran replied. To escape all the headaches of the real life. We can all use a break.
It just made me realize that it might be kind of hard to get Miho-chan to return, leaving such a splendid place behind, Sakura said.
We're bound to have to return to reality, though, Syaoran said. After all, this is all just the result of someone's imagination.
I think my fantasy world would be similar to Miho-chan's, Sakura commented, snuggling under the blanket. It felt so natural to have Syaoran across the room from her, talking to her in the dark before falling asleep. What would yours be like, I wonder?
If you were there, that's all I need.
Syaoran grinned in the dark. All of a sudden, his worries from the other world evaporated completely and seemed so trivial. Who cared about no longer being the Lee chosen one? That title couldn't matter to him less now.
Why are you smiling, Syaoran? Sakura asked, leaning to her side to face Syaoran's bed.
How'd you know that I'm smiling?
Syaoran wondered if Sakura was smiling too.
Isn't it too dark to see?
Oh, I don't know. I just sensed it. Sakura laughed. You know, I feel bad because we're having such a good time when we're supposed to be in a grave on a mission. I have a feeling we're falling into the fantasy's trap, but I couldn't care less.
Well said, Syaoran said. Hey, why did you suggest we head for the tower anyway?
I had an idea, Sakura replied, though I don't know if it'll work.
Ah, I see. Another one of your brilliant ideas.
Syaoran then mentally scolded himself for his sarcasm, for Sakura didn't respond. Finally, her breathing slowed into the breath of deep slumber. Syaoran could tell Sakura was not having any nightmares for a change. He himself was still wide awake.
Sakura, are you sleeping now?
Syaoran already knew the answer.
He turned over to his side to gaze at Sakura's sleeping profile. Their beds were close enough that if he stretched out his arm completely, he could reach Sakura's hand, which dangled off the side of the bed.
Guess what, Sakura? I'm no longer the chosen one. The funny thing is, I don't even care.
Her hand felt so warm against his palm.
I used to think it was a matter of life and death for me. But I guess that was before I fell in love with you. Did you know that, Sakura? I love you.
Sakura stirred in her sleep. Casting aside his blanket, Syaoran knelt by Sakura's bed and peered at her face, lighted by the moonlight. The moon here was about 4 times the size of the moon back at home.
Is she awake?
No, Sakura was still sound asleep. Carefully, he brushed a lock of soft hair covering her cheek. She flinched under his touch and opened her eyes, looking quite startled to see Syaoran's face so close over her own. Even in the dim moonlight, Syaoran could see the confusion and questioning in Sakura's deep emerald eyes, which reflected his own face. She had heard everything he had said after all, about him being demoted as the chosen one and him loving her. Before she could question him, he bent over and kissed her mouth, his fingers tangled in her soft hair. When their lips parted, Syaoran continued to stare into Sakura's moonlit face and said,
I wish that you forget everything I just said just now. This isn't the way I want to tell you. And here, and the surrounding inside the fantasy.
Sakura's eyes turned glassy and then shut, and her head turned limp as she returned to sleep. Syaoran knew she would not remember anything the next morning. Was it better that she knew after all? But it was too late. Straightening the blanket over her, he rolled back onto his bed, shutting his eyes.
How foolish of me. I find myself wishing we didn't have to return home anytime soon. But I wish I could stay here by Sakura's side a little longer.
Meanwhile, Irul's party was also at a dead end, and they had resided in their bedrooms prepared on Miho's orders for the night. Hugging a frilly cushion to her chest, Tomeo said, I guess trying to talk with Miho-chan wasn't successful. She's too busy preparing for battle with the EGO or something, Kuro-chan grumbled, seated on another cushion and helping himself to the assorted chocolates placed on a silver platter before him. Or was it the EOG? EOD, Tomeo corrected. The most sinister, evil magician in the kingdom, the Earl of Darkness. Irul entered through the door adjoining his suite to Tomeo's, dressed in satin blue with white polka dot pajamas, with the matching nightcap that Tomeo had chosen for him to wear, and not looking too happy about being too polite to disagree with her.
It seemed as if using magic to trigger Miho's memory was slightly unsuccessful, since she mentioned that she seems to have heard the song before. Of course, I practiced Scarlet quite frequently at home over the past few weeks, and it probably was imprinted into her mind then.
Ignoring Kuro-chan, who was guffawing at Irul's nightwear, Irul continued.
I think it'll be best to follow her to the battlegrounds tomorrow, and... He stared stonily at Kuro-chan. Kiroberis?
Kuro-chan immediately stopped laughing, for Irul yet remained an unpleasantly intimidating person, nightcap or no nightcap. Anyway, I wonder whatever happened to Sakura-chan and the brat. I've been wondering too ever since I came here, Tomeo said. Where are they? Are they inside the fantasy too?
We came here with them initially, however, we were separated. Actually, I've been hoping to meet them here,
Irul admitted, slipping the ridiculous nightcap with a white pom-pom on its end off his head.
But seeing as they have not arrived at the palace...
You don't think anything's happened to them? Tomeo asked, concerned.
Hopefully they decided to take a different path, Errol replied, staring out the window. It was too dark to see the tower across the opposite end of the kingdom.
Don't worry, those two know how to manage on their own. They've been partners for ages, Kira-chan reassured. Though now that they're older, I'm starting to wonder if it's safe to allow them to leave them alone together like that. That wolf boy is turning really problematic. Do you know what he did last time? He sneaked into Sakura-chan's room through the window and stayed there overnight. What? Tomeo exclaimed, clasping her hands together. Oh, Sakura-chan didn't tell me?
Oh, Tomeo, Errol said. Are you really okay with that boy taking away your best friend like that?
Tomeo looked down at her feet. Yes, since Syaoran makes Sakura happy, I'm in full support of the two. And, in a way, Syaoran-kun is the best guy friend I have, for I've been supporting their relationship for 5 years now.
I can never stop marveling at your self-sacrificing ways, Errol commented. I think if our forerunners, the Great Five, were as selfless as yourself, many conflicts would never have occurred.
Oh, don't get mistaken, Tomeo said. I get jealous and resentful too, but I guess my problem is I've never loved anyone so deeply, and therefore I'm immune to strong emotions weighing on both positive and negative ends. I've never felt extreme love, so I've never felt extreme envy. That confused me, Kira-chan said, finishing the last chocolate-covered orange. Tomeo-chan is so pretty and well-rounded, but you've never had any boyfriends or anything. I mean, truthfully, I think you're prettier than Sakura, and Mei-Lin too, but they still seem to have a lot more love life than you. Sakura is Syaoran and that freak, Aeron, and Mei-Lin seems to have Kai devoted to her lately. The closest thing you probably had was Aeron last winter, but obviously he was only using me to get closer to Sakura-chan. Tomeo finished smiling. I'm a little eccentric, you know. People come to me with problems, but it's rare that anyone wants to approach any further, as I told Sakura-chan. Besides, I'm not seeking for a love life anyway. Oh, unless... Kira-chan raised an eyebrow at Errol, seated at the armchair and looking cool and distinguished, as usual, in his polka dot pajamas. Okay, now let's start talking about me and go to sleep, Tomeo said, standing up and heading to the king-size four-poster bed. Good night, Kira-chan. Good night, Errol-kun. Ruffled at being cut off when the conversation was just about to get juicy, Kira-chan stated, I'll go sleep in Errol's room. Then he flew over through the door to Errol's suite and snuggled inside a baby cradle.
I take the hint that you're requesting me to leave, Errol said, his eyes twinkling.
Oh, no, I didn't mean it that way, Tomeo stammered.
Good night and sweet dreams, Tomeo-san, Errol said, smiling and closing the door behind him. Falling back into the luxuriously cushioned bed, Tomeo felt her heart fluttering in an unfamiliar way. I'm just excited after a hectic day, she told herself. Hope I see Sakura and Syaoran-kun tomorrow. It was Syaoran who awoke first the next day and hopped out of bed, refreshed and strangely energized. Sakura was still asleep and, having kicked off her covers, lay sprawled with her mouth slightly parted, a strap of her pajama top sliding off one shoulder. He chuckled. She still slept like a baby. Then he narrowed his eyes as he caught a glimpse in the broad daylight, the strangely shaped purple bruises covering Sakura's upper arm, wrist, and collarbone area. Did she have them previously? First, she'd been wearing that long-sleeved collared uniform, so he couldn't see the bruises at school. And it had been too dark to see them when they were back in the real world, and she changed into that queer gypsy costume. And when they'd first arrived inside the fantasy kingdom, he'd been too overwhelmed by the setting and then running away from the guards to notice Sakura's bare, bruised shoulders. Now that he looked again, they seemed awfully like finger marks, the type of bruise formed from pressing into the flesh and into the bone.
Wake up, Sakura!
Syaoran shook Sakura, who muttered something and turned over on her side, then rolled onto her stomach. Syaoran's eyes widened. He brushed aside her long hair to reveal the nape of her neck and upper back. There were many more bruises on her backside. Surely it didn't cover her entire back also. Carefully, he lifted up her top enough to see 2 or 3 broad, swollen red streaks striping her back, as if she'd been whacked by a metal rod. "What are you doing?" Sakura asked, startled out of sleep, pushing aside Syaoran's hand, her heart pounding. She straightened her pajama top nervously.
"Sakura, where did you get those bruises?"
Syaoran demanded. Sakura bolted up, moving away from Syaoran and trying to use the blanket to cover herself. She had completely forgotten about the bruises once she came to the fantasy kingdom. Maybe the magic of the air had made them cease aching. Now, Syaoran had just triggered unpleasant memories.
"Answer me, Sakura,"
Syaoran said gravely. "Nowhere. Cheerleading practice. I fell down from the top of the pyramid," Sakura lied glibly.
"Cheerleading season didn't start yet," Syaoran reminded. "Here, let me take a closer look."
"No!" Sakura slapped away Syaoran's hand, astounding him with her quick retreat. I mean, it's nothing. It doesn't hurt or anything." That was true, but only because they were inside the fantasy.
"What are you talking about? Those are fresh bruises, a day old at most," Syaoran said, frustrated. "Who did this to you?"
"I told you it's nothing," Sakura snapped, afraid that Syaoran might figure out with his probing mind. She had been trying so hard to forget about it. Aaron's cruel words echoed in her ears.
"Well, it's about time you get the notion out of your head that I'm a nice guy, that you can befriend me by throwing bones at a stray puppy. I'm not as simple as Lee Syaoran." "Then why are you backing off like that?"
Syaoran snatched away the pillow she was hiding behind.
"Sakura, look at me!"
"No!" I can never let Syaoran know. But it was too late. Sakura realized she was recalling Sunday's incident so vividly when she had vowed to delete it from her memory. Breaking into Sakura's mind, Syaoran suddenly caught glimpses of Aaron grabbing Sakura's arm and then thrusting her back onto a lamppost, him grinding his fingers into Sakura's tender skin, hurting her, him trying to kiss her. His words, "If I were you, I would be more on guard. There's no knowing what I might do from now on." Sakura's terror-stricken eyes. "Stop it!" Sakura exclaimed, clenching her eyes shut. "Stop looking into my mind!" The flashes of images were cut off, and Syaoran stared at Sakura, breathing hard, trembling in fury. Never did he think that the simple ability to mind read could hurt him so much. His teeth were clenched as he uttered vehemently,
"That bastard! That son of a... Wait till I get my hands on him."
"No, Syaoran, you're wrong. Aaron didn't do this," Sakura said, shaking her head rapidly.
"Didn't I tell you to be cautious of that guy?" Syaoran demanded. "And yet you never listened to me. Just wait till I get back."
"No, Syaoran, it's not that big of a deal," Sakura protested, wary that Syaoran would be likely to scold her as she fully deserved for failing to heed his warnings. Instead, he had an extremely pained, sad expression.
"He dared do this to you,"
Syaoran whispered, reaching out and gently touching the bruise over her collarbone. Sakura winced. The swollen red streaks on her back pained him the most.
It reminded him of the encounter with the whip for some reason. He knew what it was like, not being able to lie down properly, sit up straight, having to be careful not to bump into anything. Aaron. Never had he felt such a strong urge to punch someone's face and smash out his brains. At this, Sakura remains silent, secretly touched at the pain concerned written over Syaoran's face, and forgave him for intruding into her mind. The day was as sunny as the day before, and Sakura and Syaoran, dressed in gypsy and pirate attire again, laundered and mended, embarked on a fresh start after finishing the scrumptious breakfast of hot cakes and fresh maple syrup and fresh berries. It was impossible to stay too angry or argue with each other in the fantasy kingdom, and Sakura and Syaoran simply didn't mention the early morning row to each other. Syaoran, at least, relieved to find Sakura seemed to possess no memory of the incident that happened in the middle of the previous night. She proclaimed, I think I slept like a log last night. I don't even think I stirred in my sleep. Except for the fact you were snoring, Syaoran said, glad that they resolved their morning dispute before it evolved into a full-fledged argument. He was careful not to look at Sakura's shoulders, or else he would start feeling murderous again. I do not snore, Sakura retorted, cheeks flushing red. Oh, really? I thought the roof would fall over us. You talk in your sleep, too. Syaoran continued to tease. You're so mean. You're worse than Ni-chan. They reached the top of the mountain with the help of the unicorn, pure white in the broad daylight and with magnificent feathered wings, who appeared even before Sakura had to go through the trouble of releasing her staff. Oh, what a frightening place, Sakura mused, staring up at the creepy, crumbling gray tower of stone. Hesitantly, they climbed up the winding steps which supposedly led to the top tower. When they were around halfway up the tower, Syaoran peeked out on one of the small holes in the wall which served as the windows and said, There's someone coming from the east. Peeking through another opening, Sakura said, Seems like a bunch of riders on white horses. And they're carrying a royal banner, see? It's blue and silver like the one we saw on Prince McKay and the guards. Let's hurry up before they arrive. As if the tower itself had a different idea at that moment, the stairs ahead suddenly crumbled under Sakura's feet. Quickly, Syaoran pulled her back to his chest, and Sakura collided into him, her nose jamming into his chest. Her crimson skirt was tangled in his legs, and Syaoran held her close to him, as if afraid to let her go. I am okay now, Sakura whispered, looking up at Syaoran's solemn face, lit by a stream of light which came through the narrow cracks in the stone wall. You can let go of me now. Realizing that his face was so close, realizing that his face was as close to Sakura's as the previous night, then realizing that it might be dangerous because he might kiss her again, Syaoran loosened his grip on Sakura. It wouldn't do for her to remember. He grimaced as he gazed at her bruised collarbone. That was close. Sakura laughed weakly, staring at the gaping gap in the middle of the stairway, through which she could see the distant bottom of the tower. Her heart was pounding less from the shock of almost falling through the stairs, and more from a certain pair of amber eyes glazed with passion and sincerity. Fortunately, they reached the top of the tower without any more mishaps and approached a rotten wooden door. Syaoran kicked it open with ease. The room inside was bare of any furniture or decoration and resembled a dungeon more than anything else. There's no one here, Sakura said, stepping into the room. She found she was mistaken. You finally came a voice other than Syaoran's. I was afraid you wouldn't, because you two took so long. McKay? Syaoran asked in disbelief, unable to recognize him because he was dressed in stark black. What are you doing here? Unlike his haughty image of earlier, McKay was greatly humbled as he said, I've got a favor to ask you two. What is it?
Syaoran asked warily.
Take my sister out of this world,
McKay replied, head down, his eyes hidden behind his hair. Eh? That had been completely unexpected.
Please, save Miho before it's too late. Get her to realize that this world she created is only in her imagination. That she has a real life to return to,
McKay continued desperately.
Wait, I don't understand what's going on, Syaoran said slowly. That's what we're here to do anyway, but why are you asking us to do that? Aren't you part of Miho's fantasy? Why would you? I am the core of her fantasy. That's why if I'm destroyed in front of her eyes, she'll snap back to reality,
McKay said.
If I'm destroyed. You can't be destroyed, Syaoran said. This is Miho's fantasy world. You can't die unless Miho desires you to be eliminated, and that'll never occur.
McKay nodded.
That's true, but there's an exception.
He looked up at Sakura, who seemed to have dawned upon the same conclusion as him.
I know. I get it. The Earl of Darkness,
Sakura rambled on.
What do you mean, Earl of Darkness?
Syaoran asked, frustrated by the ambiguity of the situation.
If this fantasy world is going according to the story, the one person that the Princess Miho has to overthrow is the Earl of Darkness. So in the end, Miho will come to the tower and destroy the Earl. However, if McKay, her precious brother, happened to be the Earl,
Sakura exclaimed rapidly,
then that is the one way her fantasy will shatter.
And we'll be able to take her back to the real world,
Syaoran finished off. To McKay, he questioned,
And are you willing to cooperate with your own demise to help Miho?
Smiling sadly, McKay said,
It was a mistake for Miho to love me too much when spinning off her fantasy story. In doing so, she brought my own downfall because I care for her safety just as much as in return.
Realizing how tragic the whole situation was, even after being excited that she had come up with a tangible plot, Sakura said,
You do know that it'll hurt Miho terribly, don't you? When she realizes.
Even if it hurts her, it's more important that she lives,
McKay replied quietly.
Living in bliss here in this rose-colored world is not really living. It's only an illusion of happiness.
He slipped over his head a black mask.
She will learn to live on without me.
Early that morning, Miho and the royal guards had set off from the palace on white-winged steeds directly to the tower. Earl, Tomeo, and Kiro-chan, despite Miho's unwillingness for them to follow, had been included in the procession.
Where's Prince McKay?
Tomeo asked Miho, searching the proceedings.
He went off first as a lookout,
Miho replied.
A gallant knight protector, Kiro-chan muttered. Goody two-shoes McKay.
Having reached the front of the tower, Miho commanded,
Guards, wait out here. I shall enter alone.
We'll go with you,
Earl said.
Do as you please. Just don't interfere,
Miho replied, tossing back her hair and gathering her long skirt in one hand as she headed up the stairs.
Where is your brother, anyway? Kiro-chan asked. He was missing in the throne room yesterday, too.
Prince McKay, my brother, will come along, Miho replied, huffing and puffing up the endless steps.
Anyway, it's me who has to face the EOD.
I can feel Sakura and Syaoran nearby,
Earl told Tomeo quietly, following Miho shortly behind.
Ooh, what are they doing here? Tomeo questioned. Do we really have to see what's at top of the tower?
Kiro-chan grumbled, having an easier time than the rest because he was flying.
Can't we get Miho to realize that all of this is a dream world and that we need to return now?
Finally reaching the top of the stairs, Miho, panting, gazed around. "Who's there?" she demanded. "Miho-chan!" Sakura exclaimed. "Wow, you look unrecognizable." "Who are you?" Miho asked coldly. "Are you one of the Earl's minions? Step out of the way."
"Oh, Sakura-chan!"
Tomeo called out, reaching the top also. "Tomeo-chan, what are you doing here?" Sakura asked.
"I called her up by mistake,"
Kira-chan replied, flying to his mistress fondly.
"Oh, Kira-chan!"
Sakura shook Kira-chan's paws heartily. "I see. You are all allies," Miho said. "I should have seen from the beginning that you were plotting against us. I should have you all arrested as soon as I deal with the Earl of Darkness." "Miho-chan, there is no Earl," Sakura tried desperately. "Let's just leave this off and return to our world now. You're needed there more than here." "Silence!" Miho commanded. Sakura opened her mouth to speak, but it was in vain, her eyes tearing in an attempt to make a sound. Was this how Tomeo felt when she had her voice taken away back in 5th grade? Sakura gasped.
"Miho, everyone's waiting for you back at home," Syaoran said, stepping out from behind Sakura, blocking the entrance to the inner room. "Your mother, all your friends, not to mention journalism club. You love to write, don't you? And all of us too, we're waiting for you."
"This is my home, where I belong, where I am happiest," Miho replied. "Step aside before I hurt you. You're rather my ideal type of guy, so I wouldn't want harm to fall upon you." That, too, was a command, and Syaoran felt his feet move away from the door unwillingly. Swinging the door open, Miho entered, followed by Sakura, Syaoran, Tomeo, Kiro-chan, and lastly, Iero. She stated boldly, "I have come to challenge you, Earl of Darkness. Show your face to me."
"Do you wish to destroy me?"
came a voice from behind a cracked, full-length mirror near the back of the room. It echoed so much due to the structure of the room that the voice was unrecognizable as McKay's. "Yes, I do," Miho replied, whipping out her bow and arrow.
"Seems like she can wield those weapons properly in this world," Syaoran whispered to Sakura, who nodded, still not being able to speak since Miho hadn't lifted her command yet. "Can I ask you the reason why you want to destroy me? Me?
The voice continued to prod. "Because light must claim victory over dark, and those who have sinned must come to fall," Miho replied. "This is what my brother always taught me, and so it has come to be the time of your decline, Earl of Darkness."
"Yet, sometimes things aren't so easily defined as black and white," the Earl said softly. "They are gray spots too.
"But you are tainted black, and therefore you must be destroyed," Miho said.
"And is there no room for redemption?
He asked. "No, not for the likes of you," Miho replied firmly.
"Very well then," the Earl said. "So be it, Princess Miho. Destroy me as you please. If this is a world where the soiled can't coexist with the pure, then the likes of me is doomed to hell. Oh, for what right do I have to seek paradise?
Sakura tried to utter a sound. Syaoran shook his head. The due action had to take place. "Good. This will be the last of you, Earl of Darkness!" Without mercy, Miho shot with dead accuracy through the long oval mirror, which shattered and pierced through the figure standing behind it. Bullseye. The clattering of glass shards to the ground startled the onlookers more than actually the thud of a person collapsing. All of them, except Errol and Kiro-chan, ran up to behind the mirror, crowding around the fallen figure. With trembling hands, Miho removed the black mask from his face, though she had already begun suspecting who it was from the shock of auburn hair matted against his forehead, striking against his black apparel.
Caught, my little princess,
McKay said, plucking the arrow from his heart and letting the blood gush out and drip onto the ground.
Oni-chan, no, this is a lie,
Miho said, stepping back.
What are you doing here? Why?
Miho, you said there's no gray, that all is black and white. If I am either black or white, I am black. Therefore, I am unredeemable, and you have done right in conquering me. For I am the Earl of Darkness. You have been dreaming of conquering all your life,
McKay said calmly as a scarlet pool formed around him.
You've done well.
No, this is all a dream,
Miho said, covering her eyes and sobbing.
This can't be real.
It isn't real, McKay said, his voice strained. This is just the result of your fantasy. This is all a bad dream. So go back to your real world, where you are needed.
Bending over McKay, Miho clasped her hand.
I don't care. I don't care if you're stained. I don't care if you're evil, which I know you are not. I just want to be with you. If I return, you won't be there. You'll be gone. It's only a part of my fantasy dissolved into air. It's my dream. How can it go wrong?
It's already too late, McKay said, gasping. Your path is already chosen. You must go on. It's time to leave silly childhood fantasies behind and carry on your own life. Miho, come back with us,
Earl replied for the first time, approaching Miho.
You've remembered everything now, haven't you? Having done so, it is possible for you to stay in here any longer. You've already realized that this world was only the result of your imagination and childhood dreams. But back at home, we're all waiting for you. We all love you and need you. And your brother will thank you for treasuring your memory of him so dearly that you will wish to be able to pull through and become a woman. You can't be a child clinging to your brother's shadows forever. That's right,
McKay whispered, smiling.
But don't worry. Even if you don't have your own kingdom, you'll always be my little princess.
Oni-chan, no!
Miho exclaimed as McKay shut his eyes. Slowly, McKay's form dissolved into thin air, ripping with the rainbow light of the shredded fantasy. Miho shouted, tears splashing down her cheeks. Nobody said anything as Miho crouched on her knees, sobbing into her hands. They didn't even notice when her hair grew short again and her long gown changed into her school uniform.
Miho, let's go home,
Earl said, patting Miho's shoulders awkwardly.
You must go on. It is time to leave silly childhood fantasies behind and carry on your own life.
Miho had been so happy for the past few weeks, spending time with McKay, dark force he may have been. If only she could return back to that short but blissful period. No, what had been the result of them? She had grown distant from all her friends, fought with Earl, her true savior, slacked off on her schoolwork, set aside her journalism club duties, stopped visiting her mother, her only mother, and worst of all, had become a dependent. Earl's words echoed in her ear.
You can't be a child clinging on to your brother's shadow forever.
Everyone gazed at each other uneasily, not knowing how to handle the situation. They were all startled when Miho, giving a final sniff and using Earl's handkerchief, blew her nose, stood up firmly, eyes bloodshot, and her face flushed. but voice firm despite it quavering as she stated, "I'm okay. Thank you for worrying, everyone, but I'll be okay."
Oh, Miho-chan,
Tomeo sighed in relief.
Mm-hmm.
Sakura attempted to say, "You can speak now, Sakura," Tomeo said, laughing. "Thanks, all of you, coming on a rescue mission for me. It was hilarious. You bore me. I'll send you to the dungeon." You guys look so dismayed. And Errol, the fortune teller.
Wait a minute. You recognized us but were pretending not to know us?
Kiro-chan demanded. Then he realized that if Miho had truly forgotten them, they would have been trapped there forever inside the fantasy. "But that song was truly beautiful, Tomeo," Miho added. "If you sing like that tomorrow at the concert, first place is guaranteed."
Oh, thank you, Miho-chan,
Tomeo said, smiling.
"You really are strong."
"You know, this tower is so ugly and not my taste," Miho stated, all gray and crumbling. The tower disappeared, and they were all standing by the banks of the pink lemonade river. In the distance, the White Palace could be seen, raising a white flag of victory and peace from its highest tower, and the heralds blowing trumpets of victory.
"Well, the Earl of Darkness was rather the Earl of Grey, wasn't he? EOG,
Kiro-chan stated. Everyone groaned at the bad joke. "You know, I think the fantasy lied to us," Sakura said. "Didn't it say that as soon as Miho acknowledged that this was all her own imagination and that she wants to go back, we'd be able to return to the real world? Yet we're still here." Everyone turned silent, realizing the significance of Sakura's words.
"Oh dear, does that mean we're stuck here?"
Tomeo asked, then realizing she didn't mind too terribly. She would like to meet the Queen of Fairies next, and maybe an elf with pointed ears.
"Well, there's always food and drink, so,"
Kiro-chan said, helping himself to a cherry pie that grew on the trees. "Miho, you wished yourself that you want to return, haven't you?" Errol asked gravely. "Of course I have," Miho replied, indignant. Then she glared at the others. "Unless one of you are foolish enough to have wished to stay here longer. Now that the pillar of my fantasy is gone, all of you have probably have equal ground on overthrowing my wishes." Syaoran stared at the ground guiltily. He hadn't meant to, yet he realized that he had wished to stay a little longer.
"Who would be foolish enough to do that?"
Kiro-chan demanded. Syaoran stammered before he was broken off by another speaker.
"Actually, I think I might have, by mistake, wished to stay a little longer and enjoy the splendid magic of this place,"
Tomeo added guiltily.
"Oh, sorry."
"I might have done that too," Sakura said quickly. "I really wasn't thinking, I guess." Rubbing his head sheepishly, Kiro-chan said,
"I guess I did too. It was so wonderful eating all the food I could have and have it all conjured up at my command."
"Well, I guess we're all at fault then," Errol chuckled. "I must say, I too have been tempted."
"Well, only Syaoran was able to resist the temptation,"
Tomeo exclaimed.
I'm impressed, boy,"
Kiro-chan said grudgingly. Sakura clapped her hands together. "Syaoran-kun is always so disciplined, unlike the rest of us."
Yeah,"
Syaoran said, deciding to remain silent after all.
"I guess we all want to return then?"
Errol asked, smiling. Tomeo squeezed Miho's shoulder reassuringly.
"Yep,"
everyone echoed back. Back through the ripple of the rainbow light, the 6 of them were transported back to the old Tanaka residence. They all gazed around the bleak, barren space of land, dark except for the light of the lamppost on the main street. All the glory and beauty of the fantasy kingdom stripped away.
No time had passed, and Sakura found that her gypsy costume, which had been soiled and torn during the 2-day adventure in the fantasy world, was still brand new, and Syaoran still had his bandana around his head and that silly golden pirate earring fastened to his left ear. Tomeo was holding up her camcorder, filming. From above the trees, Yue came rushing down, his long silver hair fanning out behind him.
"You've returned,"
he said, observing the group with keen silver eyes.
"McKay?"
"Disappeared," Sakura replied. Then she sought for the aura of the fantasy. It had clearly been defeated. She had to seal it now. She raised her staff. "Don't bother, card mistress," came the tingling, ethereal voice of the fantasy. "You haven't defeated me yet."
"What?"
Syaoran's eyes flashed from one corner of the trees to the other, sword out, searching for the fantasy. "As long as you have the faintest gleam of hope in your heart, as long as you have dreams and fantasies and the desires for them to come true, you won't be able to seal me." The fantasy laughed. "Then how can I seal you?" Sakura demanded.
"Only when you are in true despair and have given up all your dreams, all your hope, and accept the cold injustice of reality will I be sealed," the fantasy replied. "And I know you are far from that state of mind, card mistress. So farewell for now." There was a poof of many colored bubbles popping, and the aura of the fantasy at the sight disappeared. "You mean we went through all that trouble and poof, the fantasy can simply escape like that?" Syaoran demanded. "It's going to be harder to seal the fantasy than the riddle."
"Don't be silly. At least we brought Miho-chan back safely," Sakura said. She sighed. Another card in addition to the riddle that remained to be captured. Every time she had one sealed, another one appeared. How long could this cycle last? "Miho-chan is back?" Melanie exclaimed, limping to them on her crutches, having left Kai in the car. "Thank God you're okay." Giving a weak smile, Miho said, "Of course I'm fine. I'm the great McKay-sama's little sister, after all."
"Welcome back, Miho,"
Earl said, smiling warmly. Miho gazed up at Earl with her shining coal gray eyes. "Earl, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry." Nobody heard what Earl replied to her, but whatever he said, Miho flung her arms around Earl and sobbed into his chest. Hard. Sakura felt tears at the corner of her eyes, and Kiro-chan sniffled. Even Syaoran felt rather mellow. Only Yue remained indifferent. Miho sobbed her heart out, and Earl occasionally patted her back so cordially, and they were all surprised at how brotherly Earl could seem despite having been an only child all his life. She hiccuped. "I'm really grateful. I have such wonderful friends." Her words were muffled in Earl's chest. Then Miho faltered, collapsing into Earl's supporting arms. The fantasy had been sapping energy from her for weeks, and she finally buckled under the strain. "Miho-chan!" Sakura rushed up to Miho, whose face was eerily pale in the dark smudges underneath her eyes more distinct.
"Don't worry, she's fine,"
Earl reassured, heaving Miho on his back.
"She'll just need some sleep and nutrition. The first thing to recover her physical strength, and then her mental trauma will slowly heal." "How surprising to see you so concerned over a mere girl who's no use to you," Yue commented blandly. "What do you mean, has no use to me, Yue?" Earl asked smoothly, without any offense taken. "All I know is that Cloud Reed had a habit of showing kindness to only those who had some use to him, most often as a source of amusement," Yue replied. As an afterthought, he added, "Well, maybe with an exception." Even with the poor lighting, Tomeo noticed Earl's expression stiffen, then relaxing into his usual smile. "It's only natural for me to be concerned for her, Yue. For Miho is the only family I've ever had.
The only person who's ever really needed me.
At this, Tomeo felt that strange quirk in her stomach. Iro's eyes, all the humor gone from it, was the same color as the current night sky, and graver than ever before.
Are you talking about Claureed included, or just yourself?
Yue asked, cool and distant as always.
Myself. Me.
Iro replied, giving a short laughter.
I'm not Claureed, and he is not me, as I never fail to reiterate.
Either way, seems like Miho will be under your care a little longer until her mother's health improves and her real brother shows up, if he's alive, Kiro-chan commented. And Kaho-san would be relieved that that ordeal that she's been most worrying about has safely passed over Miho-chan.
Well, it won't be easy for her, Iro said. But after tonight, I can say I'm a little relieved. I think we can all have faith in Miho's resilience.
You know, I think we had things easier in the fantasy than we should have, Sakura said, though obviously it must have been very painful for Miho.
Yeah, her brother, though he was the core of the fantasy, cared more for Miho's salvation than the objections of the Dark Ones, Syaoran said. He was his own independent spirit.
Their conversation was interrupted by the honking of the car. Sticking his head out the window, Kai shouted, Are you guys coming or what?
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot you were there, Sakura exclaimed. Well, we better get back home. Tomeo-chan has the contest tomorrow. She played with her hoop earring. Why did she feel like she'd forgotten something very important back inside the fantasy kingdom? Kai drove Meilin, Iro, and Miho home while Tomeo's bodyguards came to pick her up. Tomeo also gave Sakura and Kiro-chan, tucked away in her pocket, a ride. Yue flew away as abruptly as he arrived.
Are you sure you want to ride? Are you sure you don't want to ride, Syaoran? Kai asked before driving off. I mean, we do live in this same apartment building. No thanks, Syaoran said coldly, still not over the fact that Meilin was staying at the thief's place. Go ahead. Fine. Kai zoomed off, startling Meilin and Iro in the back seat. Miho was too deep asleep to notice. You really left, Syaoran muttered, realizing that by now the last bus to Tomeda probably had left, and he could only walk home, which might take at least 2 to 3 hours from Itoko. He kicked a stone on the sidewalk. From the brushes, he heard a cat yelp. After walking for half an hour or so, he realized that he was passing by the Lee estate. Standing in front of the gates, he stared up at the dismally lonely house. Then his breath stopped short. A sudden icy sensation arrested him, and he stumbled forward, gripping on the iron post for support. A vision of a pair of icy blue eyes flashed through his mind. When he could finally muster the strength to continue on walking home, Syaoran realized that his knees had gone numb for kneeling on the ground for so long, and his breathing was still irregular. The next day, the students of Seiju Junior High were more excited than they had been since the star-crossed production, since the annual Junior High Music Festival was being sponsored by Seiju Junior High that year. The auditorium was gleaming, and the students had painted large banners and posters for the festival. All morning, buses from different schools had been arriving with contestants for the performance that afternoon. It was always exciting to have students in different uniforms mingled in with the crowd. Classes had been canceled for the day, and the various students had organized snacks, drink, and souvenir stands all over the school grounds. Contests that ranged from pianists to singers to acoustic guitarists were gathered in the various music rooms, all busy introducing each other to different students of the opposite sex. "Aren't you nervous?" Rika asked Tomeo, who was calmly eating her lunch unruffled as usual. Most of the other musicians were feeling too queasy to eat. "I'm so sorry I couldn't play the piano for you because of my wrist, but I heard that Earl comes here accompanying us, so that's a relief.
With his skill, he probably could have entered the piano section of the contest. Speaking of Iro-kun, I haven't seen him at school today, Sakura said, biting into her sandwich. Did he come? Oh no! I heard Terada-sensei say he's absent today, Rika exclaimed. Miho-chan isn't here today either, Chiharu said. Aki-kun is fuming because Miho was supposed to cover the music festival as a feature story. Tomeo and Sakura exchanged uneasy looks. Clearly, Iro was looking after Miho, who must be suffering from the aftershock of all the happenings yesterday. It was only natural. Tomeo-chan, what are you doing here? Nako exclaimed from amidst the crowd upon finding Tomeo tucked away on her lunch with all the other contestants were all preparing materials for the performance. The contest will begin at 1. All the contestants have gone up to the music room right now. As Tomeo hurried to pack up her lunchbox and head to the music room, Sakura whispered, forehead crinkled in concern, What are you going to do if Iro-kun doesn't come? I think it might be difficult for him to come today because of what happened yesterday. He probably has to look after Miho-chan. Managing a confident smile, Tomeo replied, Don't worry. I can sing to a background music recording. It won't make that much of a difference. Oh yeah, Sakura stammered for the right words. Can you sing now, Tomeo-chan, that time? Hopefully I will be able to now, Tomeo said. Inside the fantasy kingdom, she had been able to sing with the greatest of ease. Truthfully, she hadn't sang since she returned and didn't know if she could sing like she had in the fantasy in the real world. She would be able to find out if her voice had returned when she did a voice warm-up exercise later on, before the contest began. Never had she dreaded singing like this before, however. When Tomeo changed into her recital dress, entered the bustling music classroom full of Seiju students. Rooms were divided off by different schools. The music teacher came up to her, looking relieved. Oh, thank goodness you are here, Daidoji-san. But I've heard your accompanist isn't at school today.
It's okay. There's a recording of the piano accompanying it that I can sing to that, Tomeo said.
Well, then, you can go up to one of the private music rooms and start warming up your voice, the teacher said, handing Tomeo the keys to the room. Your number is one of the last, so you have plenty of time to prepare yourself. Do your best today. We're all counting on you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Tomeo stared at the door, suddenly wishing that Iro was there, reassuring her that she would be able to do fine. With a heavy feet, she entered the small, soundproof music room. Playing a key on the piano, Tomeo tried to sing. Her voice failed her again. She sang again. It came out as a faint croak. Tomeo gasped, clutching her throat. She couldn't sing. What was she to do? The contest was only a few hours away. Suddenly, she had a horrible vision of herself standing on the stage alone. All her friends, Sakura, Meilin, Chiharu, Rika, Nako, Syaoran, Kai, and her mother, her father, and her music teacher staring at her, pointing at her, and laughing. No matter how hard she tried to sing, no voice came out. An echo of the phantom's voice sounded in her mind.
Do you think you can try to step into spotlight seeking for attention? Do you know how pathetic it is? Can't you accept that you are only the shadow of everyone around you? Do you seek people to look at you, your mother, your father? Do you want someone to love you? Do you think you are capable of being loved? No one will love you. You are doomed to be alone.
Knocking aside the stool, Tomeo burst out of the music room and ran out to the hallway, startling the students standing around. There must have been a time when singing had been a pleasure to her. Now it was a source of dread. The minutes approached 1, and the students slowly filled the auditorium to obtain good seats for the music festival. Hurry, Sakura-chan, let's go in,
Chiharu called out, grabbing onto Takashi, who was trying to stray to one of the souvenir stands. Nako-chan said she saved good seats for us up at the front. Riko-chan, Meilin-chan, and Kai-kun are there too. Have any of you guys seen Syaoran? Sakura asked absent-mindedly, peering through the crowds of students. No, I haven't seen him all day, Chiharu replied. Oh, I think I saw him in the morning. He was in an awful rush, Takashi replied. Didn't even say hi. You guys going first, Sakura said, half listening. Was Miho still unconscious and Iro really not planning to come? I'll be there shortly. Okay, but hurry up. The concert's starting any minute now, Chiharu called out. Chiharu-chan, Takashi said. What? Chiharu asked shortly. Hurry, let's go in. Hold out your hand, Takashi said, slipping something out of his pocket. Why? Chiharu held up her hand obediently. Around her wrist, Takashi fastened a turquoise and white bead bracelet shaped in a daisy pattern. Mystery of the beads disappearing from the art room solved. Eyes turning misty, Chiharu said, Yamazaki Takashi, you remembered me saying that I wanted a bead bracelet made this for me? Now will you finish listening to my bead story? Takashi asked, grinning. Thank you so much, Chiharu cried, throwing her arms around Takashi. You know, this is the first time you've given something to me. Off to the corner, Sakura smiled fondly over her two childhood friends. She envied how they got along so well. And on a side note, she was relieved that the source of the missing beads was Takashi and not some ghost or a dark force. Before long, the hallways were empty. From the sounds of it, the teacher was making introductory remarks in the auditorium. Then she felt the urge to gaze out the window. Sakura thought she saw two figures streaking across the field. Flinging open the window, she stuck out her head and looked closer. She wasn't mistaken. It was Iro and Miho sprinting across the school entrance with amazing agility after such a tiring night. In a few minutes, she saw Iro and Miho approaching from down the hallway. Miho-chan, Iro-gun, Sakura called, waving her hand. You're here after all. Of course, Miho stated, holding up her notepad and sticking a pen behind her ear. I have an article to cover. I can't shirk my duties, can I? Or face the rage of Aki-senpai. I can't believe I slept till noon today, though. I almost missed the music festival. Oh, Sakura-san, where is Tomeo-san? Iro asked, catching his breath, his glossy blue-black hair out of place for a change. Did it start yet? Had Sakura ever seen him so disheveled before? Smiling in relief, she replied, Tomeo-chan is on the second floor music room. Her number's one of the last. You're just on time. From the sudden quiet of the hallways, Tomeo realized that the music festival must have begun. She could hear the faint sound of flutes drift from the auditorium. The awaiting contestants in the classroom were now hearing encouragements and last-minute pointers from their school peers and music instructor. She wondered if her mother came, Daidoji Sonami, who was very occupied with her enterprise these days, something about starting a new line abroad. All Tomeo knew at that moment was that she couldn't sing and that she had to run away from this place, something she never did. She always believed in hanging on and waiting out, whatever the dilemma may be, but now she felt like fleeing. Then she heard the soothing voice which had calmed and reassured her so many times before call out, Tomeo-san! Hiragizawa Iro was standing before her, staring at her as if questioning whether she was running away. Iro-kun? Tomeo was speechless as a flood of relief rushed through her. Bowing his head, Iro said, I'm so sorry, Tomeo-san, for being late. No. Tomeo shook her head, her eyes feeling teary all of a sudden, out of pure joy. I thought you weren't coming at all. I promised you that we would win first place together, Iro replied solemnly. I keep my promises. I will try my best for you today, and I hope you will do the same for me.
Thank you, Iro-kun, Tomeo said, smiling. Thank you.
Well, have you started warming up yet? Iro asked, heading to the music room. You haven't? Let's go get started then.
For some reason, Tomeo knew she would now be able to sing perfectly fine. Having seen Iro head off to Tomeo, Sakura, followed by Miho, quietly crept into the auditorium through the back door. She saw Meilin wave to them from near the center of the front row. As Miho and Sakura took their 2 empty seats, Meilin hissed,
Where have you been? You've missed the piano and the flute performances. They're doing violin performances right now. They're all excellent, really professional level. Oh, have I missed out on a lot? Miho ranted, furiously scribbling down notes on her notepad. Oh, I better catch up with the beginning through the video recording of the contest. I really can't believe I slept in today till noon. Meilin and Sakura glanced at each other happily. They'd been worried about Miho, yet she'd recovered fine on her own. Well, Iro's support probably played a big part also. As the current violinist from Itoko Junior High finished his number and bowed, the audience burst into applause. The last contestant on the violin is, the teacher announced, Lee Syaoran, in his 3rd year at Seiju Junior High, who will be playing his own alternation of Pachelbel's canon. There came a loud scream from the female audience members, half of them from rival schools also, for Syaoran's fame had spread since the Star-Crossed production. Dropping her program, Sakura's jaws dropped, asked, Did anyone know that Syaoran was participating in the contest? Suddenly, it became clear why Syaoran so often disappeared in between breaks and missed journalism club meetings. Look! His name is printed on the program list of contestants, Nako pointed out, holding out the program souvenir. Lee Syaoran, Seiju Junior High, Class 3-2, Violin, Canon Alteration. You didn't know? Sakura asked Meilin, who looked equally as clueless to Sakura's secret satisfaction. No, I was staying at Kai's, and also he's rarely home, Meilin said, staring at Syaoran calmly standing on the stage, violin and bow in one hand, extending the microphone to his height, looking tall and handsome in the Seiju Junior High uniform, a splitting image of his father. How come he didn't tell anyone? Shiharu asked. We were only cheering for Tomeo-chan, but I guess we should be cheering for Lee-kun too. He's our classmate after all. The students had finally hushed, and Syaoran stepped up to the microphone and said,
I would like to dedicate this performance to one who I have hurt terribly almost a year ago, and apologize to her for saying words that I did not truly mean. For those of you who wonder why we live, I ask, don't we live to create memories? For memories are the only lasting gift bestowed upon humankind. And when all else fails, we can look back to our favorite memories fondly.
Syaoran paused, looking through the audience straight at Sakura, who was sitting in the center front row. Everyone was taken aback, since no one else had given such an introductory comment before. Syaoran continued, For this person, I have chosen this song to ask forgiveness, so that we can look back at yesterday's without any grudge, so that I can seek redemption for past mistakes. A fleeting image of snow fluttering down and a bitter, mocking, hurting voice replayed in Sakura's mind, as vivid as it really was from yesterday. Funny how we can look back to yesterday and realize how silly it was. Seems like another lifetime. Yes, despite it all, the mere memory still hurt like an icicle embedded deep in her heart, unbeknownst to her. She looked up to see Syaoran was still looking at her as he adjusted his father's violin to his chin. This was the second time she saw Syaoran on stage and watched him as an audience member. The first time was back during the Star-Crossed auditions when he had saying, It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. Oh, he's talking to me, said one girl blushing. Oh, how sweet of Lee-kun. He didn't have to. Don't be an idiot, her friend scoffed. He's referring to me.
Sakura did not know how the next few minutes were spent, as the familiar chords of the canon in an unfamiliar rhythm and variation caressed her body and whispered the song of a distant day to her soul. It was not a piece which could sound with just a single violin, but Syaoran pulled it off. The tune started slowly, yearning, the sound of the loneliness common in all of Syaoran and Ryorin's performance. Then the rhythm grew faster and faster, till Sakura felt exhilarated, lifted up to the golden clouds. When Syaoran ended on a long, lingering note, Sakura found herself trembling, tears in her eyes. It was not the tune, though it had always been one of her favorites. It was the soul which Syaoran put into his performance, for as he brought his bow down, his head was damp from being drenched in sweat, his breath like that of someone who ran a marathon, his face flushed. And he was still staring only at Sakura. Sakura was staring back from her seat. Luckily, she didn't stand out because the rest of the audience was standing, applauding like they had during the star-crossed performance. It was the same tune they had played last winter for the winter concert, yet Syaoran seemed to be playing a different piece, for he spoke to her through the music. It was as if he was saying, "I'm sorry for hurting you and abandoning you. Can't you give me another chance?"
The MC teacher cleared his throat as he glanced at his watch, knowing he had to move on. The next genre, the applause, hadn't ceased yet and was followed by immense chattering. "Well, Romeo plays the violin. Oh, I remember him playing that piece in a trio last year, but this is amazing. Did he rewrite canon himself? I've never heard that version before. Oh, I do wonder who that girl he's referring to is. Oh, lucky her. My heart will melt if my boyfriend did something like that for me. Oh my God, he's so hot," was the rest of the female audience's reaction. "Aaron, what can I do?" Erika squealed near the back of the audience. "He's just too wonderful to destroy." Aaron crossed his arms, looking away. In the front row, staring at Chiharu oogling Syaoran, Takashi scowled.
Laughing, Chiharu said, "Don't worry. I'm just impressed by Lee-kun, that's all. He's always surprising us, don't you think? First during the Best Couple contest, then the Star-Crossed production, and now this. I remember when he first transferred to Tomato Elementary from Hong Kong. He was such a sullen, lone wolf kind of boy, yet he's come this far. It's really amazing." "Huh, yeah, I guess," Takashi conceded. "He'd worked hard, I can say." From the seat across Mei-Lin, who had nearly been as spellbound as Sakura, said, "Syaoran worked really hard. He's improved on the violin immensely. He couldn't play like that last year, or back in Hong Kong either." "When did he have time to practice, I wonder?" Miho mused, her gray eyes glittering with the prospects of a new angle to the article she was going to write. "Kai-senpai, you've taken pictures, right?" Yeah, Kai replied, holding up his digital camera lazily. "Thinking about it, over the past month I do recall hearing music often in the middle of the night, which I drowned out with rock music. Didn't sound like Xiao-kun, though I thought it was the radio or something." "Why didn't Syaoran tell any of us he was entering?" Mei-Lin was indignant. "Well, obviously you weren't on speaking terms with him, and he knew I wouldn't care. And it was supposed to be a surprise for Sakura-chan. And does he have any other friends?" "No, I don't think so," Kai reasoned. "Tomeo-chan probably knew. She always knows everything, and she's another Seiju contestant anyway, but being her, she probably kept it quiet." "Sakura-chan, earth to it," Mei-Lin said, waving her hand in front of Sakura's face. "Syaoran's long since left the stage." "Hui?" Sakura was startled to find the next contestant playing the cello was on the stage now. Really, when did Syaoran improve this much? Up till that summer, she had thought the violin skills were pretty much on par. Maybe Syaoran was a little better because he had started learning earlier than her. Of course, Syaoran was a quick learner, but Sakura had always practiced twice as hard as he did. Yet now she felt that Syaoran had left her behind, exceeding anyone's expectations. There was no question who was the better violinist now. Yes, this performance was good as any of Li Ruiren's performances. And that was saying a lot. "I wonder what the great noise coming from the auditorium is," Iro said, looking around. "I think Syaoran-kun's number just ended," Tomeo replied, flipping through the program listing. "Oh, he entered the contest too?" Iro asked, surprised. "I suppose so," Tomeo replied. "You never heard him play, did you? He's surprisingly good. I think he's as good as the violin as you are on the piano. He seems to possess some natural talent, inherited from his musically talented father, but most of it seems to come from a burst of effort over the past couple of years." She was too prudent to mention that Iro, being musically talented, probably had triggered the jealousy cells inside Syaoran, making him practice harder. "It seems as if you're hinting at something," Iro commented mildly.
"Well, you have to admit that you play the piano with inane ability without much effort or thought," Tomeo said truthfully. "With your ability, you could easily have entered the piano soloist category."
"Actually, the music teacher did offer me that option, but I told her that I wanted to devote all my efforts to Tomeo-san's piece," Iro replied. At these words, a pleasant tingle ran down Tomeo's spine. She shook her head, wondering why she was acting so strangely these days. Already she knew that Iro was a pro at meaningless compliments and flattery. Yet why did his words alone make her heart race in such a way? After waiting 3 more long hours, which didn't seem long at all because Iro was a pleasant conversationalist, someone who could put you at ease when you should be tense and nervous, one of the teachers finally called the contestant who were performing in the vocalist category to the backstage. Swallowing hard, Tomeo saw each singer walk on stage, perform his or her number, and receive a hearty applause. After all the instrumentals, the version of vocal performances were welcomed. "They're good," Iro said quietly, listening to the singers ranging from age 12 to age 15 from schools all over the district. but I know we will be best if we just perform as we performed yesterday.
You mean in the fantasy land? Tomeo laughed, though feeling more confident anyway.
Well, yes, Iro replied. I think both of us like being the best anyway, without trying to show it.
Yes, we do, Tomeo replied. I'll do my best, Iro-kun. I think for all you've done for me, I will try my best.
The next contestant is Daidoji Tomeo, third grader from Seiju Junior High, singing Scarlet, and accompanied by the piano by Hirozawa Iro, also third-year Seiju Junior High schooler. The teacher announced. Taking a deep breath, Tomeo, the skirt of her blue velvet recital dress swishing, walked even-paced onto the stage with Iro beside her. Not even seeing her friends cheering frantically from the first row, or her mother and great-grandfather and Uncle Fujata off to the corner. She didn't even care that her father was on another project and was missing yet another one of her performances. The shiny black grand piano was located in one corner of the stage, and Iro sat on the piano bench, fingers posed over the keys with a natural ease as usual. He stared up at Tomeo, waiting for the cue. The stage was darkened except for 2 spotlights on each of them. Tomeo looked at Iro, and he nodded back. The hauntingly beautiful piano melody trickled through the stage. Tomeo joined in perfectly on cue this time, singing with the greatest ease so that anyone who heard that only a couple hours ago she was unable to produce any sound would have laughed. She became not only a voice, but a heavenly maiden, scarred, hoping, despairing, as she sang the melancholy lyrics.
胸に溢れて募る想い眠り忘れて情熱の色たとえ遠くてもきっとたどり着ける強く信じてたあの日の私が今も心で眠っているガラスのバラよりも儚くて脆いのに夢見ることはなぜ定めなのでしょう二つの夢が愛になって愛に乗れないこともあって人は一人だと分かり合いたいのになんて難しい言葉を無欲で
As the last note of the piano faded, Tomeo turned to Iro, who looked up and smiled warmly, and Tomeo beamed back, deaf to the thundering applause. Receiving the Solid Gold Annual Music Festival Vocalist First Place Trophy and a handshake from both the school principal and the mayor, not to mention Sakura, Miho, Malin, and her classmates congratulating her and her mother, squeezing her into a tight hug, all didn't matter to Tomeo. Such trivialities, once her greatest joy, passed by in a flurry. As soon as she could escape from the crowd, Tomeo rushed to the backstage, eager just to hear from one person, and he was waiting for her, handsome in his crisp black recital suit and maroon tie, and holding in his hands a single red rose, petals just beginning to bloom.
Good job, Tomeo-san, Iro said. I'm really proud of you. Half submerged in bliss, amethyst eyes shining, Tomeo said,
We did it together, Iro-kun. We really did it. It's all thanks to you.
No, you even exceeded my expectations. And that is something possible. Iro replied, holding out a ruby red rose to her. No more words were needed from him than a simple but significant congratulations, Tomeo-san. Wordlessly, Tomeo took the rose from Iro's hand, flushing when her fingertips touched his.
What is this pricking sensation? Can it be?
Momentarily, she recalled Sakura's words describing love.
For some people, I hear that realizing that they love someone is like a lightning striking them. But for others, it's a gradual thing that deepens with time. For me, I think it's inconsistent because even now, some days I question what I truly feel for him, while others, I reflect that it must have been love after all.
Tomeo's violet eyes widened with a certain realization as she clasped the rose to her heart.
No, it can't be. But it is, after all. I think I've fallen in love with Hirasawa Iro.